Time for cities and towns to start dreaming again. Walking in the footsteps of giants. Absolutely incredible. Glorious. A moment of magic, a moment of inspiration. This is extraordinary. Greatness awaits.
Welcome to a brand new season of the Essential EFL podcast from Sky Sports. I'm Simeon and I'm here to preview the Championship with Curtis Davies and Luke Chambers. Chaps, thank you so much for joining me. Curtis, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
And Chamber, how are you? You well?
Very good. Enjoyed my break, but can't wait for it to get going again.
Excited for the start of the new season?
I am, yeah. I'm at Wolves on Friday, so get to see them up close and personal. See what life after Rob Edwards is like and see the likes of Trippier and Jimenez back in the Championship will be exciting.
Have you been working on your pronunciation for Cesar Peixoto?
Well, yeah, you've just taught me there. So, yeah, I've kind of stayed away from it for now. I was going to get a pronunciation on the internet and try and work out before, but I'll just let the host on the day, who's Michelle, say his name a lot.
Professional, I'm sure she would have been working on it for weeks and weeks and weeks. Chamber, how's your summer? Good?
Yeah, brilliant. I think the season finished in a brilliant fashion. We were across the playoffs again. Just so much drama, so much to look forward to, so many storylines again across the summer that, yeah, again, we've got so much to get across, so much football to watch, and yeah, I just can't wait for it to get going. Enjoyed the break. I feel like everyone did, but yeah.
We've got a really, really big change this season, chaps. The playoffs have changed. We've gone from a top 6 to a top 8. I'm just going to run through quickly for our audience what is to expect. Obviously, first and second promoted automatically as normal. Third and fourth still qualify for the semi-finals. And then this is where it changes from a top 6 to a top 8. So we've got 2 eliminator games to start off. 5th versus 8th and 6th versus 7th in one-off eliminator ties at the home of the side who finishes higher up the league. The winner of those eliminator ties then progress to the semi-finals to face 3rd and 4th in the format that currently exists, the 2-legged playoff semi-finals. Of course, the key thing to note, I should say, is that 3rd will face the lowest ranked team remaining in the playoffs after the eliminator ties so they can keep the advantage from finishing higher up the league. So if 8th beats 5th, 8th will go on to play 3rd. There's no preset path for the semi-finals. And then as per usual, we carry on. We've got our 2-legged semi-finals at the home of whoever finishes higher up the league, and then the 2 winners go on to play at Wembley for a place in the Premier League. It's exciting, Curtis, isn't it? Are you looking forward to the opportunity it will bring for all the clubs in the Championship?
I think particularly this season, with all due respect to last season, I think at times the Championship maybe lacked a bit of quality. But this year, when you see the teams that first of all come down, and then you see the likes of there's Birmingham, there's Wrexham, there's the likes of Bristol City are going to be better, Norwich City are going to be better. So there's a lot of teams that will think that they can finish that top 6, but now it's a top 8. It just takes it even further that, we could be in a stage in again towards the last couple of games where there's still a good 6-7 teams that can get into it. And I think it just helps us as broadcasters when we're watching games. We've not got dead rubbers on air. Unfortunately, sometimes that happens. You book a game that's earlier in the season and it ends up being a dead rubber. But I think there'll be a lot of teams in with a shout. I've said already, I think there's probably about 12 teams that can make the top 8 and probably another 3 that think they can make the top 8. But albeit, it's going to be an exciting season.
Chamber, obviously the playoffs are a long way away as we look at them now. We're in August, these aren't until May. But how do you feel like it will impact the season as we run through it?
No, I think it keeps the season alive even more. I think we've had, especially the last 3 or 4 seasons, where teams and multiple teams up to 10, 11, 12 going into the final day with still stuff to play for. And if that means you're going into the last game of the season with still a chance of making a playoff opportunity for you as a club, I think it's massive. And I think it adds more excitement to something that is already super exciting. I think, yes, it's a change for everyone, and sometimes change isn't always favourable, but I think it's a massive opportunity for teams, even if they've had a poor start to the season, to really try and then claw those spaces back. We've seen teams do it before. I go back to a couple of years ago when Frank Lampard took over at Coventry. I think they were 10 or 12 points adrift of the playoffs, and had that season gone on a little bit longer, or they had this 8, they probably would have made even more ground up. So I think there's opportunities for teams to have poorer starts, but I think that there's now that chance for them to really pick up pace post-Christmas and chase that last spot down.
I think there's a level of, in this country, we love an underdog as well. So in terms of watching Hull City in that playoff finish 6th, and after being in an embargo, the fact that they then got promoted was wild. So imagine if 8th place, obviously come through a quarterfinal, come through a tough semi-final against a team that finished 3rd, and then go on and win a final. It would be an unbelievable story. And it just gives those teams that realistically with budgets might not quite be able to reach that top 6, but maybe the next 2 places are within reach, and it just gives them that shot of 4 games, to get themselves to the Premier League. So I think it does make it really interesting.
And if you do get there, it is a serious path to then try and get to promotion anyway. We're going to start, chaps, by talking about some teams that are hoping to avoid the playoffs entirely by finishing the top 2. We'll start with the relegated clubs. West Ham, Curtis, back in the Championship after 14 years away. But it's looking quite positive for them. It feels like there's a bit of a swell of optimism, considering they've kept their manager, Jared Bowen, still there, Tati Castellanos still there, quite a few of their players from the Premier League. It's looking like a very, very strong squad they have at this level, isn't it? If maybe lacking a little bit of depth, but in terms of the options and the quality they have, it's exciting for them, isn't it, going into this league?
It is. I think, obviously, first of all, the manager staying. There were obviously strong rumours about he would probably move on, be it through his choice or through the club's choice, but they've stuck with him. He's obviously been promoted from this league before, so at least he has the quality from the league above, but he's been there and done it in this league. Jared Bowen is a similar ilk to the manager. He's obviously got the quality from the level above him, having got 20 goal contributions last year in the Premier League. But the big thing is he's been there and done it in this league. You know, he's come from Hereford, he's come through the hard yard, shall we say, so it won't be anything different for him. And his last 6 months at Championship level, played 29 games and 23 goal contributions in a mid-table Hull City side. Now he's in the West Ham side where he's leading the line, he's the captain, and I'm sure he'll get a lot of goals this season.
I mean, this is a lad chamber. Jared Bowen, who could have been in the England squad quite easily in the summer for the World Cup, and now he's playing on the Championship. Is this one of the biggest stars we've seen at this level, and is he really, really capable of, if not breaking records, but being a serious someone we talk about for years to come for what he did in this league?
Yeah, without a doubt, and I think West Ham have needed a bit of excitement. I think there's been so many wrong decisions, it seems, in terms of the plan for the club and the fan base, disillusion at times, and they're just hanging on every season to their Premier League status. Now there's an opportunity for them to keep Nuno in charge. They've kept Jared Bowen, they've kept players that Curtis has mentioned, and if they can keep that squad and give Jared Bowen that base to work off, he can create goals out of nothing, he can create chances out of nothing. It's not just the goals he brings, it's now he's an experienced player carrying an armband which doesn't seem to take anything away from his game. He's leading a club like West Ham where he really enjoys that responsibility, and I think he is, for me, by far and away one of the best players that we will see at this level and have seen at this level in the last 10-15 years. I think we've, Curtis mentioned, maybe a lack of quality at times. We've gone through a phase of philosophies and playing certain ways where we've not had many true standout quality, where he could have easily gone to the World Cup this year. He didn't. But I think it's credit to West Ham and the intention and maybe the plan that they do have now of keeping hold of him to lead them. And I've got no doubt that he'll be right at the top of the scoring charts, the assist charts, and he'll be that focal point for them, because for me he's an absolutely outstanding player.
Him and Tati Castellanos both rated very highly for the Golden Boot. We've also got our Sky Sports supercomputer, chaps, which has predicted West Ham as the heavy favourites to win the Championship, and they've predicted Wolves to finish second. Curtis, Wolves again, a new manager, perhaps surprisingly, obviously, Cesar Pesotto replacing Rob Edwards in the summer, but again, star power. Raul Jimenez last seen playing against England in the World Cup in that amazing game of the Azteca. Kieran Trippier as well, a bit older than he was last time. He was in the Championship of all those years back, but again, someone who should be a serious operator at this level.
Yeah, 2 players that when you see their names linked with Wolves and they actually signed, players that we kind of raised our eyebrows about leaving the Premier League and going to Wolves. Obviously, Trippier's been a fantastic player, played for England and everything like that. And obviously, as you said, Jimenez was playing against England in the World Cup not long ago. But it's a brilliant coup for Wolves. What was surprising is the fact that they took Rob Edwards in situ last year. Almost, we knew they were going to get relegated. And I just thought it was a long-term plan to almost bring them back, knowing that he'd done it before. The fact they made the decision to change him obviously was met with mixed applause or sometimes a little bit of dejection from the Wolves fans. But ultimately they've got a job to do and they've got a good squad on paper. And we're speaking about those two. We're not even speaking about Adam Armstrong, the serial goal scorer at this level as well. That obviously Raul Jimenez might be able to play up top with sometimes, but they're going to be fighting for that place. So I think they're really strong. I haven't quite gone for them for my second favourite. I've gone for Burnley. But I think Wolves obviously are going to be there or thereabouts, and as long as the fans stick with them, I think they'll go all the way.
Curtis Davies versus the Sky Sports supercomputer. We have to see who wins the end of the season. What about you, Chambo?
Yeah, I've gone with the supercomputer. I think that wasn't before I knew that, of course.
Of course.
No, I think Wolves. I'm very surprised that they did move Rob Edwards on. I always spoke about this when the move happened and he left under a cloud of Middlesbrough, and then he takes this job. And I knew that at some point, given the recent history of the way Wolves have ran that football club, it was always a chance where it could end sourly. It obviously has for Rob Edwards, but I'm sure he'll get another opportunity somewhere else. But the squad they have, the two signings we're talking about, again, Adam Armstrong at this level, I think them three there are going to be a massive boost for them. I think it's a club, again, that has probably been a bit of disillusion when they've had some real good qualities. Again, we mentioned Nuno, been there, tremendous success. But they've got a squad now with real quality. They've got a fan base that want to be excited again, and being back in the Championship, sometimes you need a little bit of a reset to get everyone glued together and playing in the right sort of everyone singing from the same hymn sheet. And I think it's a real chance for Wolves to do that. And I think when we saw Raul Jimenez come off the bench for them the other day, the reception that group of fans gave to him and the team shows me that that's what they've been looking for, that talisman, that someone they can connect to through the team. And I think he's certainly that for them.
The other players as well, they managed to keep hold of. Andre is going to be a big player in midfield. Mateus Mane as well, as someone, a young player, really, really impressed in the Premier League. But the other relegated club, Burnley, I'm going to come to you, Curtis, because apparently you predicted them to finish second this season, so you seem the right man to talk to. I feel like there's a bit more uncertainty about Burnley than what we've seen from the last two times they've come down to this level, where in the end they have got promoted in emphatic fashion, 101 points of Vincent Kompany and then 100 points of Scott Parker. But it doesn't feel like there's that quite same level of optimism around the club at the moment. But you clearly feel like they're in a very, very good they're in a very, very good position to challenge again.
Yeah, I think it's based on the yo-yo effect. I think there's still players in that building that have had promotions. Maybe one of them, maybe two of them. I couldn't really tell without looking at a squad sheet right now. But yeah, that element of kind of know-how, knowing how to get over the line. I think when you consider Wolves' squad, it's a strong squad. We still don't know who might go out of that. We still don't know who might come in. It might get stronger. It might get worse. But there's not that kind of core of, I guess, know-how in the Championship, which sometimes, again, the quality of everything's going right is brilliant. But when you need to dig down and maybe bite your teeth down, I don't know how much of that is in Wolves' team, whereas Burnley's always been, unfortunately, a rugged kind of tough team, no matter how well they're doing in the league. We saw a Scott Parker team that were 100 points, yes, but a lot of that was made through clean sheets. So we're talking about a team that were hard to beat. I think obviously they've lost players, which we all know are well documented, but they've got a lot of money in for those players. So as long as they go steady with the recruitment as they have done over the years gone by, that's why I fancy Burnley.
I think they've been a fantastic club, haven't they? And I think they've got their managerial decisions right. And again, I'm looking at Burnley as an unknown a little bit now. Someone coming into the Championship, not having that experience to lead a club to promotion. Yes, Vincent Kompany was a little bit different, but you look at Sean Dyche, you look at Scotty Parker, fantastic jobs, and did it convincingly. I think the only cloud I have under that is the untried and untested manager at this level.
Same with Wolves, I suppose. But Nicky Hayden, the difference is we know with Wolves, I think we're basing a lot on the quality they have in the squad as much as anything else, don't we? As much as the uncertainty of the manager.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. I think ultimately, at this stage of the season, we never know how teams are going to start. We had a Luton Town side a couple of years ago. I think that one of the supercomputers popped them up as second or third favourite to go back up. So therefore, I watched them on the opening day against Burnley that night. They lost 4-1, and I thought Burnley were going to be really exciting, and Luton had work to do. Luton ended up going down. Burnley actually became a team that won more 1-0s than 4-1s. So it was, like I say, we're here as so-called experts trying to pick out something. But like I say, I'm more looking at players, and obviously a manager will have an effect. But if you're talking about two new managers in two new jobs, I still think, for me, the Burnley squad as a solid entity seems more capable of going up than Wolves.
Burnley fourth, Chamber in the Sky Sports supercomputer to be promoted. Middlesbrough third. We'll talk about them a bit later. But in terms of you've predicted West Ham and Wolves to finish first and second. Where do you feel like Burnley are gonna be there or thereabouts by the end of the season?
I do think they'll be in there with the shout. I'll certainly be in the playoff picture now they've been expanded. I think it will just be how they start. I think I would agree with Curtis. He makes a real good point about the experience they'll have of players that have been through that up and down and promotion. I think they're a club that is used to being expected to be successful at this level of the Championship, so I think they'll take that in their stride. I think they'll be third or fourth. I think in terms of the playoff situation, I think I've got my own ideas of who I think will go up via that and who'll be in it. But I think Burnley, without a doubt, will be in the mix. Don't get me wrong.
I still think Burnley as well. With all due respect to Burnley, West Ham and Wolves seem like a day out. If you know what I mean. So we saw the other day with the Carabao Cup. West Ham had 50,000 fans with 9,000 coming from Portsmouth. Wolves obviously a big stadium, and see Burnley have been notoriously a championship side that have gone up to the Premier League, maybe come down. It's a tough place to go. It's still a horrible place to go. So in terms of, they can make their home a fortress, whereas I think, the idea of going to West Ham and Wolves sometimes leaves the element of, we're going to park the bus. And
final mentality.
So they might go into that overdrive of sitting behind the ball, making it really difficult for those kind of teams. Whereas Burnley's just got an edge about it, and playing at that place has always been difficult. I don't think I've won a game there in my career. I haven't played there so many times. So really tough place to go, which I think adds to their extra little bit of spice of getting promoted.
There's still time, you never know. Right, that's it for part one. After the break, we'll be talking about Middlesbrough and Southampton. Welcome back to the Essential EFL podcast from Sky Sports. We're going to move on and talk about Middlesbrough now. Chambo, obviously, we know all about what happened to Middlesbrough at the end of last season, missing out on the autos, losing in the semis, and then being reinstated into the playoff final and then losing that again. But it does feel as though any cobwebs, any heartache has been kind of blown away a little bit, because they've done some serious business already in this window, haven't they? Yeah,
I think that's where you've got to give credit to the ownership and everyone behind the scenes, that they have been forward-thinking. They've been front-footed in everything they've tried to do. The players they've brought in, yes, they've lost Hayden Hackney, where every single person in the whole of the EFL supporter base thought was the best player in the division by a mile. But they've got Aidan Morris. They brought in Berhalter in the centre of midfield, which I think will free up Aidan Morris. They brought in a proven goal scorer, which I don't think they had last season, which was probably why they fell short. I think they've obviously Will Lancashire being the one, he's got off to a flying start with a great goal for them, and I think he can carry that responsibility with his experience in the Championship already. And I think they've done good business, and I think that's really important when you are flying high and when you have had disappointment, because they had multiple disappointments. But I think the squad depth let them down a little bit last season, and that, I mentioned the goal scorer, but when they lost Hayden Hackney to injury, Morgan Whittaker as well, that was when their season started to derail. So to add those extra players and spend the money, where they have done in the past, but the last few seasons they haven't really gone out there and had major additions to the team. I think they've done that this year, hence why we have them up there as one of the favourites to be right in the mix.
Yeah, I think Vitek's a big signing. I think if we see from the playoff final, unfortunately Solbrin makes the mistake, which costs them. I think that's the difference. Bringing a keeper like Vitek, he'll probably earn you, even though you're such a good team, probably earn you an extra 10 points this season with just saves. He makes big saves, big moments. So I think that was a really shrewd signing. Obviously, signing the couple of American lads, again, maybe fit in with Aidan Morris in the way that he is, and maybe being friends of his and stuff like that might help. But just in general, their business has been brilliant. They've doubled down and backed Kim Hellberg, which, after the way they maybe finished the season, it was always a question of where are they going with this? But they've doubled down with him. They've given him, who I think is an excellent manager, excellent coach, his own team now to build, rather than working with what was essentially Rob Edwards' squad. And the fact he's had a pre-season, now he's going to have a whole season to try and improve them. They have to be there or thereabouts, because they were fantastic last season, and unfortunately missed out at the last hurdle.
Chamber, a lot's happened since then, but is there a feeling that maybe there'll be fans wondering where this money was in January? Because if they'd spent a few quid then, they'd probably be in the Premier League now, wouldn't they? There was a lot of talk of how Coventry strengthened in January last season, Ipswich did, and they ended up having the strength to get over the line, whereas Middlesbrough fell away. So is this almost like a way of Steve Gibson trying to make up for that a little bit from last season as well? Yeah,
maybe so. I think it's always hindsight, isn't it? I think they looked nailed on at the stage. They spent more time in the top two than any other team in the Championship, and to fall out the way they did was quite remarkable. But I think that is the squad depth that you can only rectify once those things have gone wrong. Yes, I was in a situation when I was at Ipswich. We were top of the table at Christmas. We didn't strengthen in January. We ended up at the back end of the playoffs. So those are the key moments that fans will always look back on, won't they? The players maybe as well in that dressing room, but to come back and throughout the summer you see the club making those additions as a player, it gives you immense belief that actually we are all trying to move forward. It's not a club that, okay, we've succeeded to a degree and we're not backing up and moving forward. The club have done that, and Steve Gibson has always backed the club, and probably not to the level that maybe they'd have liked, but at this time where you can see real bright sparks and progression as a football team, and Kim Helbo's obviously the man to lead them forward with that. I think he's done a brilliant bit of business so far this summer, and I'm not sure if they're done yet. If they can add a couple more as well, that strength can really get them competing with the ones that we've already spoken about.
I think the interesting part of it as well is always getting that first one in the door. I think you've been recruited by teams. You get shown a list of players that we're planning to sign. If you're going to be the first one to put your name to paper, you better hope they all come off. But the moment you get the Will Lancashire in the door, the next one comes, because they realise it's serious. Whereas if maybe the first one is maybe a young lad that's coming through, you might not be as sure about their progression and what they're planning on doing. But once you get the first one through the door, it's like a knock-on effect. You actually believe in what the project is. I think in Simeon, as someone that's been there and done it at this level, now has got a home. I think him having a home there as well will make him a lot better player, rather than thinking, I'm going back to Brighton, I'm going to have to find another home next year. So I think, really shrewd signings, and great business done by Middlesbrough.
It does feel like they've strengthened in a lot of key areas. Lancashire as well, 11 league goals for a struggling Oxford side last season, and obviously we know about their problems in front of goal last season, so he should be a really, really, really big impact, big player for them this season. Southampton Chamber, obviously emotionally tied to Middlesbrough, still after everything that happened last season. Again, it feels like we were maybe thinking there could be a lot of fallout, a lot of players wanting out, a lot of that type of thing at the club this summer, but it doesn't really feel like that's happened. It feels like they've rallied behind Tonderecker even after everything that happened, and they've got the 4-point deduction, but there's been no player exodus that maybe some people had potentially predicted. They've brought back a couple of players, Carl Larin, Daniel Peretz, who did really well on loan for them last season. They should challenge again this season, shouldn't they? Obviously, we've got the Tonderecker potential FA charge hanging over that we don't know when that's coming or what that could be, but still, in terms of the options they have in the building, there should be a real strong outfit this season.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I think that's the only issue. There's a cloud hanging over them. You would have expected the FA to deal with that and get it put to bed before the season starts. Whether it will or not, we don't know. But I think the squad depth, the improvement that you saw once Tonderecker took over was absolutely remarkable from the start that Southampton had. And I think that's always been down to the quality of squad that they had, whether the ideas were correct to make them have that poor start to the season. But for me now, yes, they're on -4 to begin with, but I think that's everyone's got behind the idea of Tonderecker's the man to lead us forward as a football club, and I don't think anyone from our perspective wants Southampton to do poorly. I think we want it just to be put to bed. This is unacceptable what happened, but now that squad of players, and we've been in dressing rooms where you feel like you're hard done by, that potentially can give them that extra little bit of fire to try and prove people wrong and say the whole world's against us. And sometimes when you hunker down as a group of players and a staff and a football club and you think it's us against the world, it can lead you on to remarkable things. So I think they've got players in that dressing room which maybe would have acted differently in certain aspects of playoffs and performances, and they'll look at that now and try and learn from those situations. But it's a squad of players for me, and you mentioned Larin's massive at his age and experience, the impact that he had on that team. I think they're going to have a real promising season. I just feel they need to get off to a good start to try and claw those 4 points back as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I liked what Ryan Manning had to say after the League Cup game. A question was asked about, are you going to have to get used to being booed, being, the kind of hated entity? He said, it is what it is. Everything's happened. We just need to concentrate on ourselves. And I like that because that's a senior player, a leader, someone that, again, has contributed a lot to that team, just saying, well, we're all right. We're looking ourselves. And that gave me we're in it together. You keep booing us, you'll make us stronger. So I think from that, you got that. But I think the biggest example is what you said about the depth that they've got. The other day, I know it's, with all due respect, a cup game against Colchester in League Two. But just coming off of the bench, you see Finazaz assists a Bankwa. You see Kyle Larin get his goal. You see obviously Archer coming on, and they've just signed Lewis Dobbin. So there's players throughout this team that have all got quality. They'd obviously want to hold on to Cienza. They've let Shea Charles go now. Obviously rumoured £30 million to Fulham, but they won't want to lose too many. And I think they want to double down on, particularly with the money they've got for Shea Charles. It might give them an extra year with Cienza. So long as a really ridiculous bid doesn't come in, but to keep him around, because the quality that he showed last year, along with other players, if you've got all those players at your disposal, particularly as Tondereka and the work that he did on the pitch, it's going to be a really, really, I say, exciting season for Southampton. And as a pundit, I just want to enjoy Southampton playing football, because they are a really good football team. But I don't like but they did this. It's a new season, it's a new start. They've got their -4. They're going to work their way out of it. And the sooner they do that, the better. Then it's less thought of, and we can just enjoy them playing football, doing well or not, and just analyse them as a football club rather than a so-called villain, which we want to get away from.
With Southampton, obviously, they've got the -4 points deduction, Chambo. Is that going to be the thing that maybe stops them really challenging the top two potentially? Does that leave them just a little bit too far back? They came from a long way back last season, but it was a weaker league last season in terms of the amount of points it took to get into the top two. Do you feel like, especially with how strong we expect West Ham, Wolves, potentially Burnley to be, do you think it will just leave Southampton with that little bit too much to do to chase that top two?
Yeah, I think it's difficult. I think if you get off to a good start, anything's possible. But to be -4 behind the likes of a West Ham, a Wolves, a Burnley, a Middlesbrough as well, how they're strengthened, I think it's going to be tough for them to claw that back. But make no mistake, I've got them down of going up through the playoffs, and with the extra 2 places for them to try and chase and fight for, if they have a good start, I think everyone will be looking over their shoulders at them, because the rate of points they were able to pick up, especially in the last 15, 20 games, was absolutely incredible. Regardless of what extra tactical knowledge they gained from whatever went on, they were still a very, very good team, winning games week in, week out, and I think that's an incredible trait to have in the Championship, because it is so difficult to put back-to-back wins together and have a consistent turnaround, and I think they've got that quality. But I do think that top 2 places will just be out of reach with the other quality there is now in the Championship.
It should be fascinating either way. There's so much we'd love to talk about today that we can't, and there's, we'd love to, but we will throughout the season, of course, on the podcast and everywhere on Sky, talk about everyone as much as we can. There are a few new managers as well in the league that we just going to sort of reference and talk about a lot as the season goes on, of course. Tony Mowbray's back at Blackburn Rovers after 4 years away. That should be, you'd like to see him do well there as well, with, just what a great guy he is and everything he's been through as well recently. Michael Skabala's gone in at Bristol City, replacing Roy Hodgson, who was there last season. That feels like a long time ago now, doesn't it? Obviously, he left Lincoln City after promotion, which none of us were expecting at the back end of last season. But obviously, the offer came in. He decided he wanted to take that, and that's led to a very interesting appointment at Lincoln, where they've gone for joint managers. Chris Cohen and Tom Shaw will be taking charge in the joint role. They're very much 2 number ones rather than it's not like a Danny Cowley, Nicky Cowley situation. They're both. So it'll be interesting to see how that unfolds, because that's something we've not seen in football for a long time. We'll be talking a lot more particularly about those 2 next week, because Lincoln are live on Sky in week 2. And Alessio Dionisi at Watford, a new man at the helm there. I'm actually going to interview him tomorrow, which I'm looking forward to. So I will tell you more about him next week as well. But we're going to crack on and talk dark horses. I've asked you to pick one each for this season in terms of, as you've both said, who you think is going to be the top 2, but who do you think could really, really challenge at the top end of the table and really, really kind of push on and be a threat this season, Curtis?
Again, because of the strength, I wouldn't necessarily say right at the top end, but in terms of when we speak about a top 8 and who could break into that wasn't there last year. I mentioned them earlier, that somebody that's kind of maybe underachieved last season was Bristol City, and you mentioned Michael Skabala, having been promoted with Lincoln, pulled up trees at Lincoln to get promoted, and not only get promoted but run away with it in the end, by beating Cardiff at Cardiff, and then obviously running away at the end to win the title. That was an amazing feat, and obviously Bristol City have gone and got their man. You back that up with the fact that they've gone and signed not 1 but 2 known goal scorers, albeit neither of them have done it at this level yet, in Don Ballard and Laurent Talay. But the fact that you've got that firepower now, I think that's something that Bristol City always lacked. I think they always had good, keen, kind of running strikers that might get you 10 a season. The fact that they've got 2 goal scorers that have got over 20 goals last season, I think just adds, 1, the competition with one another, but 2, just adds an element to their team that, with Skabala in charge and the way that he wants to do things and the methodical way that he worked out a way to get Lincoln promoted, you put it into a Bristol City side that only a couple of years ago missed out in the playoffs against Sheffield United in the semi-finals. He's got a real good back in there with Bristol City, and I think they're a real good chance at particularly pushing that top 8.
And Chamber, what about you? Who's your dark horse for the season?
I think there's a few, but I think there was a lot of hope for Birmingham City at the start of last season, and a lot of excitement of how they got promoted in the first instance back to the Championship. But I think this year, with the business they've done, I think with that first season back in the Championship under their belt, the backing, the plans they have at the Blues, I think they've got a great chance to challenge those playoff places. I think they've got real good quality. I think they've made some good signings. We were talking earlier, weren't we? Dale Fry's coming there at centre half. I think that's someone with experience at centre half that they probably have lacked a little bit to have that real solid base, especially last season. Yes, they've got some good players there, but I think he'll make a difference with that experience he's had at Middlesbrough. And I think they're a club that is now turned St Andrews into a bit of a fortress. It's very difficult place to go, and when they are doing well, I think they can really get themselves on a roll. And it's an opportunity now for Chris Davies. He has to really get this team fighting towards that top end of the season. Otherwise, it's going to be a difficult one for him to continue in that role.
I think a big thing with Birmingham as well, just to add to it, obviously I've gone for Bristol City, but he's seeing their signings in January. They signed a lot of players from abroad, foreign players that were going to have to come in and adapt. I think Vicente probably adapted all right. He did well in terms of his performances, his numbers, but those players will be better for the 6 months they've had now in English football. So almost not their new signings, but they're going to have a different impact this season now. I think having had a full pre-season, having seen what the league's about, and Prisky's one that's been spoken about, his physicality, maybe lacked it in that first stage in the Championship last season. Coming into this season, he knows he needs to be stronger. He's going to work out how the games are played, and yeah, those relationships will start to build a bit stronger.
We'll have to wait and see how it all unfolds. Chaps, thank you. You were about to turn into our League 1 and 2 pundits, Ben Tozer and David Stowell. Would you like to pick which one you'd like to be? Who wants to be Tozer? Who wants to be Stowley?
I'll be Tozer, yeah. I'm a bit of a lanky centre half, so
no long throw. Though.
Yeah, no long throw.
No long throw. By
Boys of the EFL, Mr. Stowell.
Yeah, no harm in it whatsoever. But chaps, thank you so much. We'll be back after the break to talk League 1 and League 2. Welcome back to the Essential EFL podcast. Our Championship experts have turned into our League 1 and 2 panellists, Ben Tozer and David Stowell. Ben, how are you? You well?
Yeah, really good, thanks. Yeah, looking forward to getting back into the swing of things. But it's nice to see you guys.
And Stowley, had a good summer so far as we crack on into the new season, which feels like it's come around very quickly again.
It does, doesn't it? I'm still sort of trying to work out who is where and who is not there anymore. You know, it's one of those summers, isn't it, with so much movement in the EFL. You've got to get used to the squads all over again. But yeah, great summer, a bit of a stint at the World Cup, and now refreshed and ready to go.
It has all been very hectic, particularly for the team we're going to talk about first, Leicester City. Back in League 1, Ben, it's not something many of us were expecting to say until very, very recently, but here they are. They've got a new manager, Russell Martin, who we all know very well, of course, as well. A few bits of shrewd business done already. They are the outright favourites from the bookies for promotion. Do you see it that way? Do you think it could be that straightforward for them in this league? We know it's never that simple.
Yeah, I fancy Leicester. Listen, they're going to be favourites on paper because of the size of the club, but having had them back-to-back relegations, just the kind of negative momentum around the place and the players they've got rid of, it depends on whether they got rid of the right characters. We know that they're good players and they're on big money, but they could have been ones that led them back to turning that momentum around. Because I've been in a situation where I've joined a club who've had back-to-back relegations, and you go in and everyone just expects to lose. You get used to losing. The club's almost used to losing. And the big thing last season for Leicester, right, was the fans. They almost turned up and it turned into a bit of a real negative cauldron. So for them now, it's about the new players coming in with Wes Burn, Colin Chaplin. You know, they're exciting signings. They've been there. They've had the success over the recent years as well. And of course, they're good players. But no one wants to go to the King Power, play against a Russell Martin team with the size of that stadium and the pitch that they have, and obviously the noise that they can generate. They only won the Premier League 10 years ago. So yeah, I do see them being up there. But when you look at the other teams, there's a lot of good competition as well.
Stowley, Russell Martin, does he have doubters to prove wrong after the way things went at Rangers and the way things ended at Southampton?
Well, I mean, I think what Russell has is a style that you have to adopt quickly, and you have to work hard to get that into your psyche from the off with him. And if you do, then you'll have great success. We've seen that in the past. I mean, people focus on the negatives, perhaps the spells that haven't gone right for Russell. But when things click for him and his side, and they get the ball moving the way he wants them to move it,
as quickly as he wants them to move it in the right style, his teams are very difficult to live with. And I think that's what, having watched a few clips of training and sort of seeing him getting his message across, it's clear that he wants them to adopt this very quickly, and I think they are, and he needs them to adopt it quickly. What he's done interestingly with the recruitment, and to sort of tag on to what Ben was saying, along the character side of things, he's brought in some players that he knows, the likes of Liam Cullen from Swansea, where they worked together for a bit. So Liam will want to play for the manager because he knows him, and that's presumably one of the reasons why he's moved to Leicester City. He's also brought in players who've had real positive feelings in the past. Again, Ben touched on Ipswich, that the Wes Burns, the Connor Chaplin sort of connection with Ipswich have had some great times recently. You think of Tommy Watson coming on loan, that goal at Wembley that made all the difference for Sunderland. Players who will be hungry for that positive feeling again, rather than perhaps players who they had last season who... It's tricky. We saw a lot of negativity surround the club. Therefore, we saw players who are capable of a lot more than they showed not producing the goods. And we're kind of looking the other way now at players who are hungry to show what they can do and to drive the club on. And I think this is where the recruitment has worked quite well. And if they can get that style of football going quickly, then they're going to be very, very difficult to stop for the vast majority of the teams in this division at this level.
As you touched upon, Ben, this is a side, I mean, it's not a secret that they won the Premier League 10 years ago, and now they're in League One, and they're going to have to work very hard, very quickly to get some sceptical fans back on side. But we've seen, even at this level, if you start winning games again and get some positivity moving forward, it can happen quickly, can it? And could this maybe be the reset they did need?
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, the style you kind of touched on as well, like that they will have a definitive philosophy. They will know that what they're going to watch every week will be possession-based football, where we're going to control the game from minute 1 to minute 90, and there will be a lot of good play within that as well. It's just whether there's enough attacking intent in there as well. But I think I think it's an exciting appointment.
We'll have to see. We've mentioned obviously reset of Leicester, very much a reset at Sheffield Wednesday as well, Stowley. There's been a big summer rebuild there, obviously new owners, a swell of optimism despite their miserable relegation. Henrik Pedersen's still in charge. There's been a mixed bag of a pre-season sometimes in terms of results, but going into the season as well, they are right up there, and obviously another massive club at this level. I mean, what are you kind of making of Sheffield Wednesday going into the new campaign?
Well, it's remarkable. We're starting this podcast by talking about two massive clubs at the level, and two clubs who have to do better on the field. Let's be honest. Last season, even with the points deduction and all the noise around that with Leicester City, they should have been much further up the division than they were. And the fact that they were involved in the relegation battle at all was crazy, really. Sheffield Wednesday obviously had various issues going on off the pitch, which massively affected things, and have to bounce back. And I think their recruitment's been really interesting to watch as well, because when a team as big as Sheffield Wednesday, and likewise with Leicester, with the recent history they've had of success in the Premier League and the FA Cup, players want to go there. Not just perhaps for the money, because there will be more money on offer at those kind of clubs than at some other League One clubs, but also because of the size of the club, the prestige, the history, the grounds that they'll be playing at. You know, Hillsborough, what a terrific stadium that is. King Power, likewise. So you look at that, and there will always be players who want to go there. I'm kind of looking at someone like Louis Barry, for example, as being a potentially a brilliant signing, but he also has something to prove. We know about his ability in Stockport colours, but elsewhere it perhaps hasn't worked so much for him. So this is a big season for him to say, right, I can produce this regularly, this level of quality, and really stand out in a side like that. Billy Mitchell's an exciting signing as well. Sil Swinkles at the back, who's done quite well at League One and League Two level previously with Exeter City and Chesterfield. See how he slots into the mix. There are various others who they brought in. Mason Burstow, of course, on loan. So there's potential there for those players to really light up the division, but they've got to do it. And we talk about potential at Leicester this season and the recruitment there. It's great on paper, but once the ball is kicked for the first time of the season, that's when we really see if these players can stand up and be counted.
And with Wednesday, first of all, it's great to see the club in the place they are now, even in a league lower, considering what we all know and have followed them going through in the last few years, and to be rid of the old owners as well is is brilliant news for them. But are you maybe a little bit surprised that Henrik Pedersen is still there leading them into this season? Not to disparage him, do you feel like he did enough last season to earn his opportunity, or are you surprised that they didn't take the opportunity for a completely fresh start with a new everything really going into this campaign?
Well, I did a couple games, a couple of Sheffield Wednesday games, commentary wise, and I was really impressed with how the players were still giving it absolutely everything week in, week out. So obviously he's a good motivator. There's something right about him if he's able to get that out of the players in the situation that they were in. Of course, there was the nice little bit at the end of the season where they had the countdown, the point deduction was taken off for next season, and they managed to just get over the line and erase that kind of points deduction that they had last season. So I think, why not give him the opportunity? As I said, the players responded really well to him, but look at the signings he's made, as Stowell just said there. Barry Bannon as well. What a fantastic addition to bring him back. The noise and the positivity around him coming back is going to be huge, I think. And as we touched on there, a massive club, like a proper club, one of the official proper English Football League clubs, with all the history of the FA Cup games and stuff there as well in the past. But I just think it's great for football. If Sheffield Wednesday and Leicester can really go out in amongst other teams in that league, and then not only that, if they can propel themselves out of the division, it'd be great for football.
The interesting thing, just to note on that, we talk about last season versus coming into this season. As Ben mentions there were sections of last season where there was no pressure on Sheffield Wednesday on the pitch as such, because it was such a mess that the players just had to go out and try and produce something positive. This season, they'll be expected to. And so it's a different campaign to last season. And that's where you kind of will see whether they can produce the goods or not this time round, because they need to. Sheffield Wednesday need to be in the Championship or above.
Quite a few new managers in League One this season, some familiar faces as well. Daniel Stendel's back at Barnsley. Martin Drury has replaced Liam Manning at Huddersfield. Jimmy McNulty has stepped up from Rochdale to replace Dave Challoner at Stockport County. We'll talk a bit more about Rochdale later, but for now we're on League One. But one very, very big new manager, a very, very familiar name, Aaron Ramsey at Oxford United, replaced Matt Bloomfield over the summer. Ben, it's his first job. It's not been the smoothest introduction. They're obviously under a transfer embargo, which has really limited what he's been able to do in the window in the market as well. But I mean, it's all speculation at this point because we've never seen him manage. But it's an exciting appointment, isn't it? Just for the name and obviously what he's done in the past in the game as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's a young manager as well who it looks like he wants players to take responsibility. He's obviously had the mould of Wenger and he's had a bit touch of the play with Arteta as well. So, and he's been away and had some fantastic managers to learn from. I think as well with that embargo, it kind of takes a little bit of pressure off him. I mean, even though they got relegated, they were never really expected to probably be in the Championship of recent years. But I think with that embargo, it just takes the pressure off him and allows him to kind of feed his way into his role. Having said that, it'd be interesting to see if they don't have a great start, if the fans do have the patience that the club obviously have. They got rid of Bloomfield, who I thought would have probably been a good manager for League One, but they've obviously gone a different direction and they want to go down the Aaron Ramsey route. And it's great, isn't it, to see him and Jack Wilshere both playing their trade in that same league, having played with each other. It's just amazing.
They both look like they could still be playing against each other on the pitch, to be honest.
It's
quite scary, yeah. Stowley, again, it's an exciting name, but it does feel a little bit scattergun, the approach Oxford have taken to managers in the past couple of years. I mean, what do you think the thinking is behind it? Is it just a case of giving a young manager a chance and someone who is, will attract a bit of attention to the club and a bit of, not to disparage his career at this stage, because obviously he hasn't done anything yet, but it is still a very inexperienced person at this level to turn a club around that have just been relegated from the Championship.
Yeah, managerial decisions in the EFL can often baffle, but sometimes they can really they can really turn out to be good ideas. I mean, I quite enjoyed watching Matt Bloomfield's Oxford towards the end of the season. They really looked like they were pushing, and they got a little bit of a run together. And I covered them at Preston, and they were great that night. And I thought they were going to succeed in staying up. It didn't work out, obviously, and therefore there was a change. I mean, it's so tough for Aaron Ramsey, a first managerial job, and you come in on a transfer embargo, you sign a player on a free transfer, Frankie Kent, after his departure from Hearts. He comes in, training session, ACL. I mean, that's just an incredible bad luck. And that now means that in terms of recruitment, his hands are tied behind his back. He's got to work with what he's got. He's obviously lost a few players who've left during the course of the summer, some of the higher earners, some of the more experienced players. It's really tough. But on the flip side of that, we talked about how difficult it was for Sheffield Wednesday last season. When you're in times of adversity, if you produce the goods, if you produce positives out of that, your stock really rises as an individual in terms of a manager or perhaps as a player. And maybe out of this, something positive can really grow for Aaron Ramsey in Oxford. Obviously, people are fearing for the club. But if he can get something going, if he can get that belief, if he can get the positivity and the style that he wants to implement with his side, who knows?
We've talked about the three teams that have gone down to League One. We're now going to talk about one of the teams that has gone up to League One for the first time ever as well. Stowley, Bromley are in League One. It's been a remarkable rise. It was a remarkable season for them last season as well. It's only their third season at EFL level, this, and 11 years ago they were still National League North and they'd been promoted to National League for the first time ever. It's amazing what they've done, and you wouldn't back against them doing anything really this season, would you? I mean, obviously anything staying up is a good season for them, but you know what they're like down there. They won't have that Andy Woodman. He won't have that mentality at all, will he? That anything 20th or above is good enough.
Well, I mean, we can look at all these sides that we want to focus on, and we can look at the recruitment, we can look at the fixture list, we can do all of that. With Bromley, I think, forget all of that. Look at the manager, look at his attitude, look at the way he carries himself, look at the way he speaks to his players, the way he speaks to the fans. It's positive, 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 positive. It's always sort of us against the world. Let's go and achieve something special. And that's carried them through. Obviously, they've got good players. He's signed good players. He's coached them well. But it's the sort of mindset around the club, the attitude, which has got them to where they are now. And he won't stop that. He won't change the way he looks after the players, the way he pushes the club forward. It'll be a case of, come on, why can't we go and beat this team? Doesn't matter who they are or what level they were at. And there's obviously a lot of people talk about Leicester versus Bromley winning the Premier League 10 years ago. Bromley were down in the non-league, all of that. He'll say, well, okay, no pressure on us. Let's go out and do the business. Let's go out and make a headline. And it's refreshing to see a club like this doing as well as they are in the EFL against the odds, producing the goods. And good luck to them.
You can tell that they've got a kind of inward pressure, because that's what he'll be putting on them. In-house, it'll be pressure that he's putting on them. He knows that there's no pressure on the outside. Everyone will be saying, little old Bromley this. They won't do that. They'll be trying to fight survival. But you know that inside, there's been noise of some of the interviews that he's done. He wants to make signings to make the playoffs. And I remember when he said that statement, pretty much the same when they got into League Two. And I thought, it's a bit ambitious, isn't he? But my word, he's proved me wrong for starts. So, he's not only won the FA Trophy, gone up through the playoffs, won League Two, didn't just go up in League Two through playoffs or second or third. They won League Two. They'll be there to put their name in lights. Bromley are here and we're here to stay. And not only that, we're going to go and try and prove a few wrong. So, I mean, you look at Stevenage last season, probably never expected to get in the playoffs, but he'll be using them as kind of a what do you call it? A team to copy. That'll be what he'd be trying to achieve. So I don't see why not. They've got the mentality. They're a hard team to play against. Having played against them a lot previously, they are a tough team to play against. So yeah, good luck to them.
It's set to be a really, really interesting season for Bromley. A lot of teams, we obviously can't talk about everyone. We'd love to, but we will talk about everyone through the season in League One. But that's it. We'll be back after the break where we're going to talk League Two. Welcome back to the Essential EFL podcast, where we are moving on to talk about League Two, and we're going to start with one of our new teams in League Two. It's York City. Ben, it was a glorious promotion for York City last season from the National League in remarkable circumstances as well. It's been turbulent since then, especially in the last couple of weeks. There's not been the preparation they would have wanted for the start of the campaign after 10 years away from the EFL. Stuart Maynard, their manager who got them here, has gone. Scott Lindsay has been appointed, and there is already unrest. We saw it in their Carabao Cup preliminary round defeat to Crawley Town, where there was already booing in the stands when they lost. Ironically, that was Scott Lindsay's old old side as well. It's not been good prep for them, has it, at all?
No, I mean, I worked with Stuart Maynard at the end of last season. He was doing the playoff final, and I was there doing the kind of commentary for it. But when I was speaking to him about the club, he was so positive, and everything that he kind of changed around the club, and it just sounded like a brilliant culture and an environment to be in and work in every day. And he kind of outlaid his plans a little bit, without giving away too much. There wasn't names and stuff like that, but his kind of plans for next season. And then next minute, I was away, and I see that he's left or been sacked, or there's been some sort of mutual agreement, and I couldn't quite believe it, because reached 108 points last season, as you said before, remarkable circumstances in which they get that promotion. Showed a lot of togetherness within that to be able to come back from that adversity in that last stage of the game against Rochdale. But I just thought that's a bad start to life in League Two, and then you see the fans and the noise that's coming about it. As you say, they lost to Crawley, Scott Lindsay's old team. And then the fans are chanting for Stuart Maynard in the crowd already. It doesn't seem like it's going to go well. I mean, you never want anyone to do bad and things to not go well, but that's the way that I would kind of perceive. That would be my perception. I think I don't see it going too well. And possibly we'll see Stuart Maynard back there one day. I don't know.
We'll have to see. But in terms of, as we said, Stowley again, teams don't get relegated off, they get promoted. It's a very, very long time since that teams usually go up and kick on. But is this something that has concerned you, the way things have started? Mainly just because it should be such a exciting time for the club and the fans as well, and it feels like it's gone very, very sour before things have really even got going.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing here, is that the bubble's been burst, hasn't it? And that's such a shame. I know some York City fans, and they've been through the mill the last few years, so close to promotion, and they're not quite getting over the line. And then finally they get this crazy final day when it's nerve shredding, and they don't know whether they're going to be going up or in the playoffs. And of course, if they're in the playoffs, they think, well, we're not going to win the playoffs. We never win the playoffs. So they get that goal, they get up. What a feeling. Days of celebration for the players, for the fans, sore heads left, right and centre, and everything's great. And then it's a case of, right, who are we going to sign? Who are we going to play? Fixtures come out, signings, start coming in, and you get really excited for it. And then you lose the manager who's brought you up. And then all of this sort of kicks off with the new manager coming in. And I think, Ben knows from his experience at a club that I know you don't want him to bang on about all the time. So he's got his own platform for that. I was
going to say it was nice to see a game usurp that previous game as what was clearly the best promotion game in National League history and the greatest promotion race in National League history very quickly. So we don't have to bang on about the one that happened a few years ago anymore. But other than that, yeah, that's carry on, Stowley. Sorry, I was wanting to.
No false statements. No false statements on this show, please.
But is that positivity of going up that clubs often harness and then either go up again or go very close to it? And I felt that was coming with York City, and it might still. Who knows? But there's kind of been a full stop put to last season, almost by the unrest. Now, I think Scott Lindsay said in a post-match interview after the Crawley game the other day that he says, I've got to win over the fans. There's no two ways about this. I've got to prove that I'm the man for this job and that I can lead this club forward. And we'll see. We'll see whether he can do, whether he's allowed to, and what the future holds for York City. I certainly don't fear for them in terms of relegation this season. I think they're going to be a force at some stage of the campaign. I don't think they're going to fall through the trapdoor back to where they came from. But I think it's just a real shame for the fans that the positivity hasn't kept going, and whether or not when the football starts things will become positive for them again, we'll see.
It was 10 years away from the EFL for York City. It was 3 years away from the EFL for Rochdale. But they are back. They're obviously the team that lost to York City in that dramatic game, but managed to get themselves through the playoffs in very dramatic circumstances. They've also got a new manager for different reasons. Jimmy Minotti, who got them to promotion, he moved on to Stockport. They've dipped into non-league to bring in their new manager, Ian Watson, from South Shields. They were last in National League North. Stanley, first of all, it's just good to see Dale back in the EFL, isn't it? After the way they fell out of it before, and obviously a traditional club getting back into League Two to really compete as well.
Absolutely. I mean, the worst thing about this podcast towards the end of the season is that we're talking about clubs who are going to fall out of the league. You know, you're often pinning us down, saying who's going to go down, who's going to stay up, who's going to win the playoffs, all that kind of stuff. And you're very well aware that if you lose a playoff final, it's awful. But you know, you're still in the division that you were in that season. You lose the relegation battle, it's all over. You're into the non-league. You'll have massive financial cuts to the squad. Players will move on, staff will move on, people will lose their jobs. It's awful. And so I'm always very careful when we're talking about that side of the game to have that bit of empathy, that bit of sympathy for people. So it's good to see a club rise back up again, and to do it obviously in very dramatic circumstances. In the end, they thought their world had sort of crumbled around them when York City did enough to get over the line automatically, but they fought to make sure they were up as well. So great to see. Really good story for the EFL. Geographically, they're a side who can compete quite well at League Two level and potentially above, because they often sort of feed off the greater Manchester clubs in the area. So loans here and there, or players who've been released by other clubs. So they've got the potential to bring in quality, and they've done quite well in the recruitment so far this summer as well. It's a difficult one to predict because of a new manager coming in and a club coming back into the EFL, and seeing how all of that recruitment knits together. But it's been a great story. It's been a really interesting to sort of follow them over the last couple of seasons, to sort of see them trying to fight their way back in. And I'm pleased for them that they're here again.
I quite like the continuity of this appointment, just because of the style that South Shields have basically had over the last however many years. And the manager, of course, is all about possession-based football, player development. And of course, the Rochdale under Jim McNulty was complete football, possession, take control of the game, work our way through all the thirds, and kind of obviously try and win the game, and through that kind of way of playing. But they have Dias Aruve up top as well, who's a bit of an animal. You know, a ball goes in the box, he will look to finish that ball. He'll put his body through anything to kind of finish it. And obviously, that proved helpful in their success of getting promotion. So I do like the appointment. I don't know how they'll fare up, purely because will it be too much possession, not enough killer instinct? But it's exciting to see.
There's new managers everywhere in League Two. We've got Lee Grant at Walsall. Darryl Clark's gone to Tranmere, who obviously we know very well, and Hayden Mullins at Newport County. That'll be an interesting one to keep an eye on after Christian Fuchs left there last season, obviously after keeping them up. But some we're going to talk about in a bit more depth. We'll talk about everyone throughout the season, of course, but we're going to go to Rotherham United, obviously relegated last season. And Alex Bruce, son of Steve Bruce, of course, stepping into management, his first EFL role. He's managed briefly in non-league with Macclesfield before. Just in general, though, Ben, with Rotherham, it's been a real decline for a club that were in the Championship a couple of years ago to end up in League Two. Is he the man to turn around and get them firing at a level where they should really be amongst the promotion favourites?
Yeah, I mean, he's saying all the right things. I was reading about what his kind of mantra was when he took over, and hard-working, aggressive. He obviously wants players that are durable, that are not going to... They've had a lot of injuries over recent years, where that, of course, ultimately, you pay the price for that, because if you don't have your best players available, then you're not going to have your best players out there to go and try and win your games, which is obviously why you sign them. So they're trying to sign players that are, with Steve McLaren as the head of recruitment as well, they're trying to sign players that are capable of the demands. Yeah, Rotherham, proper working class place where they just want people who are going to, fight for the badge week in, week out, which is kind of what they've been built off over the years, of course, with the Steve Evans success and stuff. But it's an exciting job. What an amazing job that is for Alex Bruce, and signing one of my ex-teammates who I hope really does hit the ground running, Paul Mullin. I'd just love to see him kind of get back to where he was a few years ago. And, he's had a couple of loans that haven't quite worked out, but if he can get him firing, then he can definitely help take them out of that league.
I'm counting that as a Wrexham mention, by the way.
Whoa, you said the word. You said the
word. Stowley, back to Rotherham. As you kind of touched upon, it's an interesting appointment, isn't it, Alex Bruce, but a good opportunity for him to really cut his teeth in EFL management. Obviously, comes from fine managerial stock himself, and I'm sure his dad will never be too far away from the phone if he needs some advice.
Yeah, I think this is where relegation can be bad for supporters, but can open the door for individuals. And I think this has opened the door beautifully for Alex Bruce. Rotherham in League Two are going to be different to Rotherham in League One. Rotherham in League One recently have struggled a little bit. Last season they were never really where some people perhaps expected them to be. Certainly fans wanted them to be. They weren't clinical enough. They weren't strong enough at the back. In League Two, I think they've got a really good opportunity to impress, and I think he has as well. I really like Alex as a guy. I know him. I've worked with him previously, but also having spoken to him about coaching and about management, I think he's got the potential to do really well. Obviously, he comes from good managerial stock, as you've mentioned. But last season, I spoke to him a couple of times when I did Salford City games. And first of all, he was very sort of humble and grateful for the opportunity that Carl Robinson had given him to be his right-hand man, if you like, at Salford City. He was grateful for the chance, but he felt that he could bring a fair bit to the table. And now he's got the ultimate opportunity to do that as the top man at a club, which he's already shown that he can bring quality in. Ben's mentioned Paul Mullen obviously being the sort of headline signing, but various other players who've walked through the door I think are going to be really handy players in League Two. So he's done the first part of the job, and that's attract the players in who can make a difference. Now it's about coaching them, getting the best out of them, and the man management side of things that, of course, his father would have seen first hand with Sir Alex Ferguson, who was so good at bringing the best out of players. And Steve obviously did that throughout his career as well. So I wish him all the best. I think he's going to be a good fit there. And we'll just see what Rotherham can do at this level of football and see if they can produce the chances for someone like Paul and for Tom Bradshaw as well, who's gone there, and a few others to make the difference.
We are neatly segueing into Salford City, who you mentioned, Stowley. Another new appointment, Peter Klimovsky. Someone who I think we will probably know a little bit less about than Alex Bruce, I think it's fair to say. Unless you're watching, Ben, have you watched a lot of Malaysian national team in the last couple of years by any chance?
I've had a lot of late nights, so...
That's a different conversation. Stowley, again, it's not... Obviously, Carl Robinson got them to the playoff final last season, part of company in the summer. He couldn't get them out of League Two, obviously lost to Notts County in the final. Again... Don't know a huge amount about Klimovsky. We will do in a few weeks, but yeah, he's the man they've turned to. As I said, recently managing Malaysia national team. He's also managed several clubs in Japan, briefly Australian under-17s as well. He's from Australia. Never managed in Europe. Not the appointment many of us would have potentially been expecting. So it's a bit of a harsh question to now turn around and be like, what are you expecting from Klimovsky's Salford City? But in terms of Salford City, they are the outright favourites for promotion from League Two, and they've done some serious business this summer as well. And this is the push to get them out of this league now, isn't it? One way or another that they've been trying to do for so long.
Yes, time will tell on the appointment and how it all knits together, but you have to have a look at the recruitment and say, well, you know, if this doesn't work, then you wonder what will, to be honest. Macaulay Langstaff, of course, was banging them in for Notts County previously, went to Millwall, didn't quite work out, but he'll be a serious force in front of goal, you'd think, in League Two. Luke Molyneux, quality player, brought in from Doncaster Rovers. He's going to be, and he's already proved the two of them linked up really well in pre-season, watching a little bit of their football in pre-season. So that's already a partnership that's going to be fascinating to watch. He's brought in some experience as well with someone like Will Aimson at the back, Joe Powell as well, central midfield. Will be really interesting to see how he knits into the equation, but quality there as well. So, you know, you kind of look at things like that and think, well, on paper, it's totally understandable why they're up there as favourites for promotion. But in the past, we've sort of seen this with Salford City. There's been a lot of promise and it hasn't quite worked out. So the challenge for these guys, the class of 26-27, if you like, is to make things happen for them. And obviously they came so close last season, and they have to be driven on by that frustration. And these new players who've played at a higher level have to come and improve their quality.
Didn't really turn up for the League Two playoff final in May, did they, Ben? But it will be a fresh start for them this season. Very fresh. They've even changed their colours back to orange, the traditional colours of Salford City. So it's going for a brand new look, a brand new manager, and a brand new squad as well. So we're expecting a real push from them this season.
Yeah, definitely. As Stowley said there, that in the past they have tried to kind of throw money at it and it hasn't worked. Put people on longer contracts, on a lot of money in that league. Hasn't worked. They brought in Carl Robinson. I thought they were going to do it last year. They're a lot of exciting attacking talent, but as you say, it just didn't turn up in that final. And the owners are ambitious. They want to get out of this league. They want to get out of League Two. That's almost become like a bit of a desperation for them, I think. So if they can do that and achieve that under this manager, who you said is surname better than I, tried to earlier on. Yeah, if they can do it, then they've made the right appointment. If not, then who knows? Go back to the drawing board, isn't it? It seems to be the kind of Salford way. So, yeah, they're ambitious, aren't they?
They'll be driven on by the frustration of having watched Wrexham come up and go up, Stockport come up and go up, Bromley come up and go up, all the time that they've been in League Two. And there was that early push when they made that sort of climb through non-league into League Two, and everyone was talking about Salford. And since, everyone's been talking about other teams. And so this is the challenge for them now, to make it their year. And I don't see it not being their year from the way that they've recruited. It's just about how can they start.
We'll have to wait and see. Chaps, we've run out of time. Thank you so much, Ben, for your time, as always.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Great to see you guys.
And Stowell, you as well.
Likewise, always good to get together. And hopefully we see plenty of quality in the EFL this season. I'm sure we will. Lots of stories too.
Thank you so much for listening. That was our first episode. We'll be back every Thursday during the season, covering the Championship, League One and League Two in depth every week. We'll also be available on your Sky TV if you want to watch the vodcast. And don't forget to give us a follow as well on your regular provider so you can get every episode downloaded straight to your device. But thank you so much for listening, and bye for now.